I'm going on my 17th year in this industry of instructional design and e-learning development, which is fucking crazy. And, I've been thinking about how much our industry has and, well, hasn't changed at all in that time. But more importantly, I've been thinking about what advice I would give myself if I were just getting started with my career today, like right now. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So stick around. Hey there, folks. Tim Slade here from the eLearning Designers Academy. As I shared in the opener, I'm coming up on my 17th year working in this industry. And it's kind of crazy to think about how much more popular our industry has become in that time. As I've shared before, I fell into this industry completely by accident. I used to work in retail loss prevention, catching shoplifters, and then one day I was promoted into a role where I was tasked with creating training for others on how to catch shoplifters. And, as I reflect on my journey into this industry, and what I find so fascinating about it is how not unique my story was at the time. Back when I was first getting started, and even up until the last few years, very few people actively sought to make their way into the world of instructional design or e-learning development. I mean, if you were to go ask a bunch of people who've been doing this for more than, like a couple of minutes, you discover that the vast majority of them have stories very similar to mine. Maybe not the whole shoplifter catching part, but, you get what I mean. But of course, that's not at all what the landscape of our industry looks like anymore. I mean, today, there are more people than ever trying to get their way into our industry. So much so that it's easy to feel like it's becoming a little or a lot saturated. But you know what? If I'm being completely honest with you, if you're one of those people trying to shoulder your way into your very first instructional design or e-learning development job, or you're trying to advance your career in some way, I don't think the main thing that's holding you or anyone else back is saturation within the market. I think the real issue is that there's a lot of bad advice out there. Bad advice that's resulting in a saturation of a lot of ill-informed and ill-equipped candidates who have been led to believe that they can do the very bare minimum, following some sort of cheap trick or hack, and still somehow find their dream job and achieve financial freedom. And what the truth is, it's this advice that's designed by those with little or no experience in the industry or in the workforce in general, that's designed and meant to keep you spinning your wheels, to make you feel like you're making progress while actually going nowhere. And, the ultimate result of that is that it makes it that much harder for you. Someone who's actually trying to do the hard work and build the skills, it makes it that much harder for you to stand out from the crowd. And so with that all in mind, what I want to do today is share with you the 3 simple pieces of advice that I give myself. Advice that's based on my now 17 years working in this industry. If I were in your shoes, just starting with my instructional design and e-learning development career today. So let's get to it. All right, so the first piece of advice that I give myself, that I'm going to give you, is to start being more intentional about your professional development and the skills you choose to focus on. As I've shared before, there's more noise than ever about what skills you should and shouldn't be focusing on, or what things you should and should not be doing on LinkedIn, or what you should or shouldn't put into your portfolio or on your resume, or how you should or shouldn't be during an interview. And, as a result of all of that noise, what a lot of people end up doing is they end up listening to the last piece of advice that they heard without, really stopping to think about whether or not it's good advice to begin with, or how it even fits into the larger plan for their careers and skill development. Or worse, you start comparing yourself to others, trying to mimic what everyone else is doing without really understanding anything, and keeping your fingers crossed and hoping that it'll somehow result in some semblance of success. And you know what? If that at all sounds like you, what I encourage you to do is tune out all that bullshit noise. Stop comparing yourself to others and start focusing on what you want for your own career journey, and start getting intentional about what skills you focus on and why you're focusing on them. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to start learning how to use articulate storyline, which is a really common thing for folks right now. Well, you know what? Let me ask you a question. Why is that? Where is that desire coming from? Is it because you really want to learn how to use articulate storyline and you ultimately see yourself working as an e-learning developer using that tool day in and day out, and the idea of it ignites something really exciting and deep inside you like it does for me and countless others who have chosen to make their careers out of it? Or Or are you wanting to learn articulate storyline because that sounds like what everyone else is doing? And that's, what some rando influencer on TikTok or Facebook said. And you see it listed in a bunch of job descriptions. And because you started comparing yourself to someone else and that's what they did, so you feel like that's what you should do. And, it seems like a means to an end of getting away from whatever the heck it is you're running away from or getting a new job. And it's not really about wanting to learn articulate storyline or being an e-learning developer or being whatever it is that you want to be. It's really because you're feeling some pressure that that's what you're supposed to do, but you really don't know why. And if it was really up to you, you wouldn't bother with it at all. If what I just said made you feel seen inside, like I pierced into your soul, not in a good way, then you have some serious soul searching you need to be doing. But, if it's the former of those two things, then great. Go learn articulate storyline or whatever the heck it is that you're wanting to learn. And while you're at it, learn how to be the best damned version of that thing that you can be. And don't let any other fuckers out there make you feel the slightest bit bad about it. But, if it's the latter of those two options, if you're focusing on learning how to use articulate storyline or learning how to do anything at all, not because it's something you truly want to do and you truly understand why you're doing it and how it fits into your larger goals, but it's because of some random set of reasons, then you need to take a few steps back, reevaluate yourself, and have a better understanding of what and why you're focusing on what you're focusing on. Or at least what's making you feel like you should be focusing on the things that you're focusing on in the first place. If it's coming from a place of comparison, externalized pressure, desperation, or anything else remotely along those lines, then you're doing it for all the wrong reasons, and you're just setting yourself up for failure. All right. This brings me to the second piece of advice that I give myself that I'm going to give you if I were just starting with my instructional design and e-learning development career today. And that's to start taking accountability for your own self, your own development, and your own career success. I rarely talk about the circumstances of my childhood, but I will share with you that growing up, I lived in a family dynamic that included drug abuse, alcoholism, homelessness, and a whole bunch of other traumatic shit that forced me to mentally and emotionally grow up at a much, earlier age than most kids. And as a result of all of that, one of the things that I've carried with me my whole life and into my career is a really, really deep sense of self-reliance. I knew from a really young age that the only person I could ever truly depend on was myself. And you know what? From a career perspective, that sense of self-reliance was reinforced for me early in my career when I had a manager and a mentor who taught me the really important lesson that if I wanted to be successful, then I had to take ownership and accountability for my own professional development and career success. Yeah, his job as my leader and as my mentor was to provide guidance, to provide direction, support, and feedback. His job was to help remove barriers and open up opportunities. But it was my job to do the hard work. And that required me to be more accountable to myself for my goals and my professional development and my career aspirations. My point is, no one else, not a mentor, not a coach, not a boss, not a friend, not a family member, not a spouse, not anyone else in the whole wide world can want more for your goals, dreams, or aspirations than you want them for yourself. And I'll be really honest here when I say that if any part of you suffers from any amount of learned helplessness, something that I've struggled with in the past before and I've seen countless others struggle with, if you have any amount of learned helplessness, then you need to fit-fo that shit out right now and get past it ASAP. And that doesn't mean that you can't ask for help or assistance, but you can't expect others to hold your hand or do the hard work for you. It means that you need to hold yourself to a higher standard than everyone else around you. And that means that your success starts with you. All right, this leads me to my third and final tip I'd give myself that I want to give you if I were starting my instructional design or e-learning development career today, and that's to focus on quality over quantity. As I touched on a bit earlier, it's hard to know where to focus your efforts when there's so much noise out there, noise that can easily send you into this frantic frenzy where you start trying to focus on all of the things. You try to learn all of the skills and you try to connect with all of the people. And of course, it gets all that much more exasperated when you're looking for a job or you're trying to pay the bills and you're operating from a place of desperation. But ultimately, what this does when you're intentionally or unintentionally prioritizing quantity over quality is that you end up doing a whole bunch of things really, really poorly, rather than a few things really, really well. And so what I encourage you to do is start prioritizing quality over quantity. And I mean this in every aspect of your career journey and every aspect of your skills development, and even in every aspect of who you connect with and network with. So, going back to my previous example, you want to be an e-learning developer who works mostly in articulate storyline? Cool. Don't frantically try to master storyline and create a dozen half-baked projects within the 30-day trial while also trying to learn beyond Camtasia and every other program you've heard some casually mention on LinkedIn. Instead, take your time to really learn how to use one or two tools at an above average proficiency and create a couple of really solid projects that demonstrate your ability and passion to do that type of work. And once you're done, start building upon those skills in an intentional and meaningful way. Again, if you're only doing it as a means to an end, that's not good enough. Here's another example. You want to connect with some folks in this industry and start building your network? Cool. Don't spend your weekends obsessively connecting with as many people as possible who are in the same part of the journey as you are. Instead, take your time to find a few folks who are doing the stuff you want to be doing, who are at the destination you're trying to get to, and start making some deeper, meaningful connections. And you know what? Along those lines, focus your efforts on connecting with and following more practitioners and fewer influencers. And if you're not sure how to tell the difference between a practitioner versus an influencer, a practitioner is someone with real world experience, with a real world job, and with some earned insight about our industry. And to put it simply, these are the people who are doing the shit you want to be hired to do. And finally, on the theme of quality over quantity, stop buying into cheap tricks, hacks, or shortcuts, or really anything else that falls into the category of magical thinking. I'm sorry to break it to you, but no. Connecting with as many people as possible on LinkedIn isn't a shortcut to career success. No, building a pretty portfolio and using all of the right keywords isn't going to get you financial freedom in this industry. No, sharing every little badge that you've earned from some overpriced online course created by someone with zero industry experience isn't going to help you, snag the attention of a hiring manager. Because here's the thing, if everyone else is using the same tricks, hacks, and shortcuts, then they really aren't tricks, hacks, or shortcuts anymore, are they? Like I said before, most of those tricks, hacks, and shortcuts, they're busy work. They're busy work designed to keep you spinning your wheels, to make you feel like you're doing something productive for your career while doing nothing at all. And, I'm not sure how this got lost over the last few years, but the secret to success in this industry is the same that it's always been. Your ability to do the job that you're wanting to get hired for. That's it. It's about the tangible skills. And you know what? As for everything else, if it sounds too good to be true, that's because it is. All right, those are my 3 big pieces of advice that I'd give myself and that I'm giving to you if I were just starting with my instructional design and e-learning development career. So I'm going to leave you with this. I know you're eager, and I know you got bills to pay, and I know this is so much harder than maybe you thought. But, here's the harsh truth that you won't hear from all of those gurus out there. Sometimes you got to do what you have to do before you get to do what you want to do. And that just might mean you keep pushing forward. It might mean you start being more intentional about what skills you focus on and why. And it might mean you start taking more accountability for yourself than you're expecting from others. And it means you start prioritizing quality over quantity until all of those unserious people that are saturating our industry, trying to cheat the system with their bullshit hacks and tricks, it just might mean waiting those people out, waiting till they burn out and run to the next shiny object. If you keep doing that, I promise your time will come. All right, so here's what I want to know. If you're just starting out with your instructional design or e-learning development career, what piece of advice resonated with you the most? Or, if you're someone like me who already has some years of experience under your belt, what piece of advice would you give yourself and to others if you were just getting started with your career today? Share your thoughts, tips, questions, comments by commenting down below. Otherwise, I want to thank you so much for watching. As always, if you haven't done so already, make sure to click those like, subscribe, and bell buttons down below to get alerted the next time I publish a video just like this one. And of course, join us inside the eLearning Designers Academy, where we focus on helping new instructional designers and e-learning developers grow their careers by focusing on skills first. Otherwise, my name is Tim Slade, and until next time, I'll see you around.